There are so many things that you want somebody else to do something so that you can feel better. And we say, friends, you got to give that up. You're living a very conditional love. You're saying, that condition feels good to me and that condition feels bad to me. So make that condition more like that condition and then I'll feel better. And we say, what you're doing is sort of sloppy thinking. You're saying, I don't want to ever have to deliberately direct my thoughts. I want somebody to figure out how to control the world so that I can just sort of sloppily look around and most of what I see will make me feel good. And we say, that isn't what you want at all. You want the variety and you want the discipline to turn your thoughts toward those things that are a vibrational match to who you really are. You want to use your willpower. You want to use your determination. You want to use your resources, your faculties. You want to use your valor. You want to use everything that you've got girded up. You want to use that toward directing thought. If you will direct your thought toward the things that feel good, you will have not a problem in the world. You cannot have a problem and a solution at the same time. You got one or the other. Which are you beating the drum of? It does not matter where anyone is relative to anything that they want, because these things are always true. Everything that you are living has caused you to ask for more, and that more is already accomplished vibrationally. You just got to chill out. You just got to relax. You just got to let go. You've just got to stop trying so hard. You've just got to stop defending why you want it by explaining how bad it is without it. Every time you're justifying or defending or rationalizing, you're pointing upstream. Even Esther, with all that she hears from us, sometimes will get stuck on the rightness of an issue rather than how the thought she's thinking feels. She'll say, oh, come on, Abraham, you got to give me this one. You know I'm right. You know that what happened here was wrong. You know that that should not have been that way. And we say, we're sure you could poll most of the world and much of the world would agree with you. Maybe even more would agree with you than would disagree with you. Maybe almost all would agree with you, but it doesn't make any difference. Rightness is not the issue. Alignment is the issue. And every time you push against anything, you are depriving yourself of what you want. There is a war against cancer, a war against drugs, a war against terrorism, a war against poverty, a war against, and every one of them getting bigger. Because you cannot push against what you do not want and be a vibrational match to what you do want. They are two opposite ends of the stick. When you pick up the stick that says money, on one end of it is plenty of money, on the other end of it is not nearly enough money, and the end of the stick with plenty of money feels entirely different than the end of the stick with not enough money. And you got to know that the way you feel when you activate the thought of money is your indication of which end of the stick you're on, you see. It's so good. We have not had this conversation in this way before. But this is the way you turn thoughts to things. This is the way the vibration becomes a reality. You have to let it be an emotional reality first, and you have to practice it as the emotional reality long enough that you're stable in it. Because when you're stable in it long enough, now momentum is going to ensue and things are going to show up for you. And you're going to say, how could I have been missing that? It was there all along. So now, did you like that? We like that so much. We like that so much. So now you take a subject about your physical well-being, a diagnosis. You not only don't have money in the bank, you've got a great big old debt that's a medical diagnosis that has a big old label on it. And so it's not easy to just all of a sudden erase that from your mind. And it's not easy to find a path in the same way that people are having a hard time these days a bit, finding a path of money into their experience while they could find the path of feeling good into their experience instantaneously, since they haven't found the way, since there's not a specific cure or a specific thing that other people have done enough that you can just believe it for sure, then it gets you all hung up. You've got to come through the back door, like Esther always does. Through the belly of the well, where there's always somebody back there with a key. And somebody's already put the arrows on the walls for you. In other words, you got to come in it a different way. And that different way is you have to focus on the emotional accomplishment that you can accomplish, not the manifestational part that is a little slower in coming. And it is our promise to you. It is our absolute promise to you. It is our absolute promise to you that if you find this emotion of well-being, because it's present in so many other ways. Look at you. Look at how you are. Feel your hardiness. Feel your clarity. Feel the stamina that you have. In other words, there is so much evidence of physical well-being. If you will ignore the piece that's out of whack and amplify the things that make you emotionally feel strong. You don't have to feel emotionally strong for very long for the money to start flowing. And you don't have to feel emotionally strong for very long before the well-being is dominant within your experience either. That's how you turn thoughts to things. You mold them in your emotional center by caring about how you feel. And you find yourself unwilling to think scary thoughts and unwilling to think thoughts that don't feel good about anything, you say. Here's the thing, and everybody relates to this. Here's what's going on. Your conscious mind has been trained, even by the memory within the cells of your body. Your thinking mechanism wants to think. It just does. You want to evaluate. You are born to do that step one thing where you compare and you observe and you evaluate and you decide. So you've got this deciding mechanism that you're born with, that is meant to decide, that wants to decide, that now all of a sudden you've decided that you're going to quiet it down. Well, it's not coming that easily because there's momentum in all these thoughts that you've been thinking. Your brain, it's not a storage cabinet where there are all these memories and things. It's a transmitting and receiving mechanism. And so the fact that you've been thinking a lot of thoughts about a lot of things means you've got some momentum going. And so those active thoughts are being received by your active brain, and that's why it's hard to quiet that brain down. It is. We acknowledge it's not the easiest thing to quiet your brain down. And you can't just stop thinking about a subject, which means you certainly cannot stop thinking about all subjects, because there's momentum, it's happening, and to just all of a sudden decide that you're going to shut it down, you can't. If we said to you, stop thinking about that, you'd be thinking about that thing that we asked you to stop thinking about. I'm not going to think about that anymore. Well, you're thinking about that thing you're not going to think about, but it's like, I'm going to stop smoking. Well, all you want to do is smoke more because you're thinking about not smoking. So what happens is, since that's the way law of attraction works, it's necessary for you to find something else to think about, something that has a different vibrational frequency, something that doesn't have as much momentum. So what we recommend, it's really an easy thing, is to find some sound to give your attention to. Now, in the beginning, Esther was encouraged to focus on her breathing, which she did, and that worked for her. She just counted her breathing. Esther said to someone the other day who was arguing for her limitations about meditating also, Esther said, sometimes I have to relax and start over 20 or 30 times in the first 5 or 10 minutes of meditation, because there's so much going on. There's something happened that's really got my attention, and there are a lot of people thinking about it, and because I've been thinking about it, then there are a lot of people thinking about it, and so it's just the way it is. But because I care about quieting my mind, I keep reaching for quiet, I keep reaching for quiet, I keep reaching for quiet, and eventually I find quiet, Esther says, and eventually anybody can. So what Esther has discovered is that if she will listen for a sound in the room, she lives mostly in hot country, so there's usually an air conditioner going, and that's a pretty good thing to focus upon because it's running consistently. Can you hear it in this room? Mm-hmm. Now, did you notice that you weren't aware of it because we were making so much noise that you couldn't be aware of it? And it wasn't until we stopped talking that you could even be aware of it? But now you can be aware of it. And the thing about a sound in a room like that is that there's not that much interest. Oh, that's not as good a sound as I've listened to before. You don't think thoughts like that. Oh, that sound has a bad attitude. That sound betrayed me. That sound owes me money. You just don't have all that connection to that sound. So that boring sound that you've decided to focus upon will quiet your mind, because you didn't say you're not going to think about something. You said you're going to think about something. So you turned your attention to something. Now sometimes Esther will think about it, and then her mind will wander on to other things, and then she'll think about it. Sometimes it takes a little while to get focused upon it, but when you do, when you get enough quiet momentum going on this boring subject, your mind will quiet down, and when it does, you will feel it. It will be a visceral feeling. It will be a physical feeling. Some of you began feeling it just in the few seconds we asked you to focus on that sound. So we encourage you to try that. We encourage you to stop arguing for your limitations, because this will work. We know for sure it will work. You just have to find something. Now, if there's not a sound in the room, turn your faucet on and let it drip and listen for it. Esther found a little ticking clock that's really a sort of obnoxious thing, and she puts it just the right distance from her in the room, and she can focus on that. Just something that gets your attention, because your mind is trained to focus on something. It wants to focus on something, but you're the decider. You can decide what it focuses on. You don't have any control over most of everything that's around you. So when you give up control of the external conditions and you accomplish control of your own focus, oh, you tap into a power, you tap into a clarity. Do you know that one who's aligned with that is millions of times more powerful than one who's just banging around, letting conditions affect them? This is really worth going for. This is worth saying, I am committed, I am decided that I'm going to spend 15 minutes and I'm going to quiet my mind, and it doesn't matter to me if I do it today or tomorrow or the next day. I don't care if it takes me 6 months to accomplish it. I'm going to learn how to tap in to the energy that creates worlds, and I'm going to use that energy toward the things that matter to me. Decide it and do it. It's easy. It's easy. It's easy. It's easy. It's as easy as sitting down. That's easy. It's as easy as listening for something. That's easy. And it's as easy as continuing to listen for that something. That's all that it is. And then suddenly you're thinking, and you're thinking, am I thinking? Am I thinking? No, that's not anything I was thinking about. This isn't a continuation of my thought. This is the thought of Source. This I will listen to. Helpful?
Yes, I'm going to keep trying. Just another thought that I had.
Well, as Yoda says.
Okay. I will continue to set the timer for 20 minutes every morning.
There's a Starbucks in the area where Esther lives, and her family and Esther, when they go through the Starbucks, they've started the fun of placing their order and also asking for an inspirational quote, just for fun. And when they do, the response through the speaker is, oh, it's you guys. And they say, yep, it's us, and get ready for us because we're going to be at the window soon. And the last inspirational quote was, do or don't do.
There is no try.
There is no try.